So a long time ago, I stumbled across a help wanted ad in a newspaper. And the heading said, "Shepherd Wanted." My first thought was, well, I'm a shepherd, so, I can do this. But it was looking for someone to take the job as a shepherd for a flock of sheep on a remote island. Now, for the life of me, I don't remember the name of the island or where it was at, but I remember that it was so remote that it said it would take you a long time to get to the nearest market, so when you got there, you wanted to stock up. And that there was no electricity nor any other amenities that we are all accustomed to in our lives. I recall thinking that this was so funny that it had to be a joke. But realized that no, it was not a joke. There was actually somebody looking for a shepherd for his flock, and it had taken on legs of its own and had gotten into so many papers because people found this interesting that there was still this type of a job going on. Now, as I was reading the paper and reading this article, I'm thinking, well, I'm a ripe young 21-year-old. I can do this, right? And then it didn't take me long to realize that I enjoy being around people and talking too much to be secluded off in an island by myself. So I knew I was not going to even bother looking any further into that. But needless to say, I did have fun with it, and I photocopied it, took it to my dad, said, "Here, Dad, you want to go do this? You're old enough, You wouldn't mind being alone," and we laughed and just had fun, thinking how ironic it would be for someone with the last name Shepherd to actually be a shepherd. But one thing that stuck out to me was this idea that I would not be able to take this job because of the sacrifice that you would have to make to do that. Realizing that the constant care and concern one would have to have for that flock that would be overseeing. And I thought to myself, that responsibility of looking over that flock of animals, knowing that if I falter in my duties just one little bit, it could be disastrous for the flock that I was in charge of. The idea of this was enough that I knew being alone was not just the only reason. I would not want a job like that. Then what do I do instead? I decided to go to seminary and get into ministry and oversee a flock of a different sort. So I guess I ended up being a shepherd anyway, right? Who knew? But at any rate, I think of the sacrifices that one has to make and that our Lord made to lead us as our great shepherd. The fact that he took on that job as a shepherd of humankind. The responsibility that he took upon himself to care for us the way that we are expected to follow. Now we learn in 1 Peter this morning the kind of example that the Lord was for us when we are told that for to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you should follow in his steps. Christ did as his Father expected of him. And he took those nails and he hung on that cross for the sins of humanity so that we may be forgiven. He sacrificed and suffered to protect us and to lead this flock that includes you and I. In return, we are expected to be examples of Christ in the flesh, living and breathing the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ. In all that we say and all that we do, We are to live out our lives each and every day as the Lord expects of us. Now, I struggle with the idea of the suffering. Because, see, I know there are many different ways that we suffer. And I would not, in any way or in any shape, want to claim that my suffering through traffic is anywhere comparable to the physical and emotional suffering that takes place in our world today. Nonetheless, we do all have our own versions and experience of suffering and the ways that we deal with it. Now, the common thread in all of this suffering is how we deal with it and how we treat others in the process of our suffering. For example, as this semester comes to an end and I continue to struggle with Greek, I'm telling you guys, one of these days I'm printing the bulletins in Greek and seeing if you guys can read the prayer confession with me. But there is a lot of stress and anxiety that comes with all these finals, and there are ways we can deal with it. Especially when you're juggling being a parent and working along with being a student. Now, you can do as I have done, I'm not proud of, but let the stress and anxiety get to you to the point that you start to take it out on your family and friends. That's not necessarily the best way to handle it. Or you can take the steps that I did take and seek that help to deal with your stress and your anxiety. Ask for the prayers. Ask for the guidance. Ask people to help you to do what is needed to calm that inner noise that causes the stress and anxiety through the difficult times. Working to bring yourself to an inner peace so that you can cope better with all the craziness that is around us. And then continue to be able to interact with others in a peaceful and loving way. Now, I've always had a saying that I created, and I've always believed that when you're going through struggles and difficulties in life, it's not always about what you're dealing with as much as it is about how you come out on the other end. Are you a better person because of the experiences you've been through? Or have those experiences caused you to be bitter and angry with others? Now, no matter what kind of suffering we each go through, I think the key is to never return the pain for pain. Never return the anger for anger, but to take these difficult times and deal with them in a loving and peaceful way. Much as the Lord did when He took those nails for us and He hung upon that cross. He did not return pain for pain. He took it as He was expected to do. Because we are like sheep and not following the decisions that the shepherd wants us to follow, He had to take those nails. He had to hang upon that cross to show us what we should do in our lives and what is expected of us. And we are told about this in the closing of our first lesson today, and we are told that you are going astray like sheep. But now you have returned to the shepherd and guardian of your souls. The Lord does guard our souls. He does protect us from the dangers that are all around us if we take the time to listen and pay attention and follow the Lord. Now, I have always loved our psalm lesson, I guess because it's the Good Shepherd lesson. And but I love knowing that the shepherd will lead us. The shepherd will protect us, and the shepherd will guide us. As we hear it said in the opening lines, when we are told that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. I've always loved that. And I also enjoy this image that we get in our gospel lesson of Jesus being the gate. And the Lord being that gate that opens and closes for the shepherd and his sheep. The idea that the sheep know the shepherd's voice and listen only to that voice, not the voice of the one who will try to deceive and steal the sheep from the flock. I love the idea that the sheep can know who their shepherd truly is. And that the Lord, being this gate, will only open it for the shepherd. And those who follow that shepherd will be rewarded. We hear the example of this in the closing moments of our gospel lesson when we listen to the Lord. That I love how when Jesus talks, they always tell us about how they were not understanding. They were not understanding. That's a common thread in our gospel lessons, that people didn't always understand. So Jesus decided to make it just a little bit clearer for them when he says, I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pastures. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. The Lord wants to be sure that each and every one of us follow the shepherd that is doing the work of the Lord, and that we are not following the deceiver, the thief, and the tempter. Now, we all have moments in our lives where we have to make decisions and decide which path are we going to follow. Are we going to go through the gate and follow the shepherd that is leading us down the path that we are designed to go down? Or are we going to listen to the thief and the person that's trying to lead us in a direction that we are not meant for? We all have gifts that we have been blessed with in our lives. And we need to determine if we are following the paths that are utilizing these gifts. You know, for years I realized when I look back, I had the gift to stand and talk to people. I had the gift to preach. But I kept avoiding it until one day the Lord just smacks me upside the back of the head and says, Frank, this is where you're meant to be. So I decided to follow the path that the Lord laid out for me. Now, as I sit in that cafe at the University of Dubuque, I'm watching all these undergrads. They're freaking out about finals. They're all stressed out too. And they're all worried that they made the right choice, that they got the degree that they were meant to have. So as I watch them, as they're finishing up and getting prepared to walk the stage on graduation day, I sit and I pray for these college graduates. I pray that they are doing what the Lord expects of them.